Today I'm here to show you my January Just Junk with a Twist journal that I made for Dear Julie's channel. And I will tell you the element and the piece of junk that I used to make the element. So the theme I picked out was the peacock theme, so I used peacock feathers, digital, and lace grunge. Then I picked my color palette, which was teal or blue-greens, some mauves, yellows, golds, and then maybe a sprinkling of pink here and there to go along with the digitals that I had. So the first things we had to do was pick out some trash to make our tassel, our covered, and our ephemera holder. So my tassel is made out of a scarf, my garment, which was a scarf. The cover is made out of a book, and I left the book intact. And my ephemera holder, I used maps. So taking those off, my list of 24 items I could use for my kit, I had other ones, and you'll see which items I picked from those. So we're going to start with the journal. It is a 3-signature journal, but 2 fit nicely in here, so we have a supplement. Cover patch with a beautiful piece of the digital. I reinforced it with some fabric and some extra chipboard there. I made it a Midori bound, so I have the grommets in there and the elastic. I have some tabs and edges throughout the journal, which were some more elements we had to make when we were finished. So whatever you see that, you'll see that's one of those. So this first element is a journal card, and I used my leftovers for that. And it just sits in the pocket that I made out of the extra digital postcards. So there was 2 sets of papers for this digital kit. One of them was the ink savers, and I used quite a few pages of that. I do have a flip through of the full kit in my YouTube channel for my January, and see that video. We also had to make our own stencil and stamps, so this was stenciling that I made. This here is my pocket, and I used a gift bag. And I've added just a small journal card out of extras, and then I put in my own greeting card. I always like to give someone a greeting card if I can, because I have lots of them, so that's the card that this person gets. This is just a piece of extra of ephemera that I made. It has a little envelope and then a card in it. And that's part of the gift bag. This is the lace grunge page. So mostly I inked them, and some I sewed around as well. That's again the beautiful peacock in the wild. That's the stamp that I made. I used my hole punch, punched out holes in the fun foam, and then glued them onto another piece of fun foam. All this paper is packing paper that I get, that I save. I always put in a couple of pieces of paper together in the journals. They're just plain. Again, this came out of a book, and it was the right color, so I wanted to keep the binding, but I threw out everything else except for these plain papers. This here is my tag, and it's made out of the wallpaper, and it has a job. It holds the journal card. I made 4 of these journal cards. I just played around with my paint and gesso and sewed around them, and left over of the kit to make the pocket. So that's one of the tabs that were required at the end. More stenciling. Another one of the edges. So this is my double tuck, and it was made with linen. I cut a template of an envelope out onto a paper bag, and then I sewed my linen around the paper bag, and that made my envelope. I added a journal card in there, and then 2 small journal cards in here. Lined paper was one of the items I put in my kit, so I used it throughout the journal. I also added an extra cluster there with some leftovers. This was my wrapping paper, so I used it for some of the pages. More packing paper. More packing paper. More beautiful digitals. And this was just an extra thing that I had from a book, and I tucked it in because it's all about the peacocks. My writing board was one of my favorite elements, so I chose that, and when I did my pick, I ended up with napkin. I had a lovely napkin, and then I made a lovely edge out of the scarf. And the writing board is right there. Now the supplement. This is my cluster, and I needed lined paper to start with. There is lined paper under there, so, and then I added some of the other elements. I did do mini challenge in the challenge, 1.124, and so I got some lace, and this is where I started out adding lace to my kit. Another cluster. More stamping. I also used a piece of purse, and it had some little beads on it, and I used the beads for stamping as well, for some variation, but everything ended up being circles or rounds. This is the middle of this signature. Some lacy grunge. This element here is my tuck, and I pulled cards for that. So this is a greeting card, and I tucked inside of it one of the coloring book pages because I had it. Did some sewing, inking, and then I added a word from my book. This is my belly band, and I picked my paper pad for that. And there's a little tuck. And this is my flip, and I used my other trash for that, and my other trash was a used file folder. So it's just a flip, and it has a couple of sheets that you can do that, and it just tucks in here, and it's attached with my paper clip, and I picked something special for my paper clip, and that is the index cards. And I added some little elements on there. So now we're going into the ephemera folder, and this has a whole full story because I made an ephemera folder, and then I realized I used vellum in it, which I do mostly with my ephemera holders, and it wasn't in my kit. So I started from scratch, and because I had an atlas that I was taking my maps from, I decided I had lots of extra paper, so I would start with another one. So this is my ephemera holder made from maps, and it starts with a flip-flop. So here is my flip-flop, and I added it to my junk mail. That's what I chose, flip-flop out of junk mail. So I ended up taking three envelopes, turning them inside out like Julie does, and then I put my flip-flop on one. I put pictures in all of them. I have pockets that I made more of those journal cards with my mixed media. These stickers I pulled out when I got to add stickers to my kit from the mini challenge, and here's some more of the journaling cards and more pictures in the envelope. So it was too much to put in my journal, but I'll be able to use it somewhere else. My next element is my policy envelope, and I chose packaging to make that. I had to sew the packaging to make it reinforced. I've added some digitals and some ink on there. I added inside the policy envelope, I have made 2 journal cards, and I've added just plain paper to those inserts and some ink. The main project here is the policy envelope. This is my mini challenge 1.124. My next one is the ruffled edge, and I chose tickets. And at the time when I chose the things that I wanted for my journal, I didn't read right down to the directions, so I ended up with a whole extra edge. And I figured with the other edges, I didn't need to put this one in as well, but it'll stay in my ephemera holder for future use. I also needed a notebook, and so I chose my coloring book out of that. So again, there's the cover for the coloring book. I added a nice cover patch, and I put a lot of the coloring book pages in there, and I sewed it around so it's nice and firm. And the last thing were that I again picked were tabs, and I already had lots of tabs because I had made these first, then I went to the bottom of the directions. I had to make more, so I added these in here. And the item I chose to make my tabs were wrapping paper. So the wrapping paper, and again I had my die cuts and I had some lace, so they're all in there. So now I have this lovely ephemera holder, but because I'd already made another ephemera holder, I decided to use this atlas, bind it again in the Midori style so it's bound, and I have 2 more sections that I can now fill with ephemera. So all of these atlas pages have all kinds of pockets. They are bound in with some elastic. And this is the second one, and again there's 3 pockets here. This is actually the original one I made. There's pockets all along here, pockets here, and then I made the vellum page with pockets, and then more sections, and more sections here. I have kept the original pages from the beginning and the end, and made more pockets in there, so I've kept the end sheets there. So this, I can, however I decide to put the ephemera in here, I might put it in themes, and then I could take this with me to my workstation, and or put the other one in. If I have a general one, I could put that one in. It's a little bit too chunky to put all 3 in at once, especially if they get filled, but this could be a place where I have, this comes and goes depending on what project and how I organize my ephemera. And I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and give it a like and subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you. Bye-bye.